Not everyone has the luxury of training full-time, yet many runners strive to improve while managing work, family, and personal commitments. Today, we're diving into what it takes to juggle it all. My guest today is Daniel Claassen, a top-level trail runner who has podiumed at major South African trail races, all while working full-time. Daniel knows what it takes to train at a high level while juggling work and life, and today he's sharing his strategies to help you do the same. In this episode, Daniel and I talk about his journey from a beginner to an elite trail runner, the biggest mistakes he made early on and what he learned from them, and what it takes to race internationally while holding down a full-time job. Daniel, welcome to the Trail Chasers.
Thank you very much. It's super cool to be here. We've been trying linking up for a while now, so I'm glad we could make the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite fitting that today's episode's about balance, because obviously, you being so busy doing everything has been, the reason why this has kind of taken so long.
It took a while, but we'll talk a lot about balance today, so I'm looking forward to this chat.
To start off with, when you're on the start line of a race, what is that like? What is the feeling? What are you kind of doing?
So I think it all depends from a race to race. Like a race like, let's say at UTMB, you just try and soak everything in because it's lifelong memories, where if it's maybe a smaller local race that you're doing more for fun, it's engaging with the community, engaging with the people. But I think what I always try and do at the start line is trying to compose myself, just almost like envision how I want to see the first 5 kilometers play out. Because if you're too excited or too emotional, then you can get carried away. And then the normal things, like the more practical things, I check that all my zips are closed, that my shoelaces are tied, that my clothes feel comfortable. And most importantly, before I start, I ran like at least a kilometer just to make sure my pack doesn't bounce around and that things in my pack don't bounce around. Just so you feel comfortable. I think you just want to be as comfortable as possible when the gun goes off.
Yeah, that last point is very important as well, because it's like I always feel that first kilometer of a race, like I'm always like, oh no, this is uncomfortable, that's uncomfortable, or I'm not warmed up or something like that. So that's actually a great...
I've made that mistake before, so it became part of my pre-race rituals now.
Yeah. So this season is sponsored by Gilnockie socks. So we've got a pair of socks that looks like that. I'm not going to put you on the spot now, but through the episode, kind of just think about what 2 words you would have on the back of your sock. Obviously, it's more for the people or all the people trying to chase you. So think about that, and
I have it. I must just remember it.
If you kind of look back, and you can take this where you want. What have been the kind of 5 most pivotal moments of your life, running, general, wherever you would kind of like to go with it?
I'm gonna pinpoint out, or I'm gonna start off, and it might be 5, it might be 4, but let's give it a crack. So I think the moment that I got introduced by running is a moment I'll remember for the rest of my life. My parents were both runners; they ran comrades, but good Bill Rowan type of comrades, which is impressive. They didn't win races, but they were always the weekend warriors. So I've been involved with running my entire life, going to races with them, the Nice marathons, those sort of things. So when I was 8, my mom and dad, they ran a race. I think it was in Speed. I can't remember exactly, but somewhere in Stellenbosch, one of those night races, and I joined my dad for the 5 kilometer. So that was my first race. And to this day, it's a very clear memory of me standing next to my dad at this race, being like overly excited. So that is my first memory from running. So I think that is pretty key in my life. Second key memory is when I did my first triathlon in Klein Willem. It was that, I think at the time, the Rooibos series or something like that. Again, that was my first introduction to multi-sports, first introduction to like longer endurance type of events, because I was about 11, and our long race at that stage was quite far for 11-year-olds. So again, that was the pivotal moment for me into endurance sports. And then I think another key moment was, and I'll tie it back together at the end, but another key moment for me was having like flexibility in Stellenbosch, because I grew up in a very like structured environment from a young age, because I was very involved with sports. So before school was cycling, after school was swimming and running, and homework in between. So I think when I went to Stellenbosch, all of a sudden there's a little bit less structure. I could do more things that I wanted to do. Of course, I explored the nightlife of Stellenbosch, but I also had the opportunity to explore the mountains and the rivers and the surrounding areas of Stellenbosch. That's also quite a key memory. And then the moment that I realized I wanted to do trail running is when I moved to Cape Town, and I saw this mountain. I grew up in Durbanville. It wasn't like I was far away and didn't know Table Mountain. But it's a very key memory when I realized like I'm here now and I can actually explore this area and this is my home. This is where I want to live. And that led me into entering my first trail race a couple of years since moving to Cape Town. So in 2018, that pivotal moment of seeing a race on, I think it was maybe Facebook. It was definitely before Instagram. Seeing a race on Facebook, and I was like, I want to do this. And then everything just tied together. It was a 40-kilometer race, Table Mountain Challenge. So it was a whole journey of running, leading into multi-sport, endurance sports, leading into exploring the mountains, and leading into trail running. So it was a 25-year journey. No, I'm lying. A 20-year journey. It wasn't. I woke up one day and I wanted to run the mountain. I think. Yeah. Sports has always been part of my life, so my journey is a little bit different than the average trail runner.
How was that first trail race for you?
Look, it was very challenging. I went in by only training on the promenade because I was just like, that's where you can run with the shirt off and you look fast. So that's what I wanted to go and train for. So when I went into the race, I didn't really know what to expect. For me, again, coming from a very competitive, shorter distance background, I thought you had to run everything. So when I ran onto the trails, I realized like you're actually allowed to walk, but that's weakness, so you need to run. So I was trying to run literally everything. And the route went up Casteelpoort. And again, I don't know how I did, but I tried to like hands and knees and everything trying to run up there. And then it's only when I ran into, because there were two guys that broke away. It was Bernard and I think Edson at the time. They were big trail runners in South Africa. When I caught them and they were hiking, I'm like, okay, you can actually hike. Yeah. It's fine to hike. So I definitely went in very inexperienced and I learned a lot. And it was also, again, such a nice memory.
I'm sure in your kind of day-to-day job, you have a business card, but in your life, you know, if you had a business card with your name, what would it kind of say underneath that?
I would hope that it says Daniel Claassen, not just a runner, something like that.
Amazing. It's good for the episode as well.
Yeah, it links into the whole balance, which we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the overall kind of question is you work full-time, you run pretty much full-time. How do you kind of balance it all?
It took a while, and I can't give myself the credit that I got it right or that I have it right now, because there's certain areas or certain times throughout the year when things aren't as simple and things are more complicated, so then it's harder to keep the balance. But what my main focus is always to try and put my life into different compartments, or like put it in different boxes, where this is my work life, this is my running life, this is my social life, and this is my family life, and this is like let's say my personal life outside of running. So I try and place it in those individual boxes and then try and give every aspect of that boxes the time it deserves, because naturally if you give me freedom and I don't have to work and money is not a problem, then I would maybe work 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week. But unfortunately, work requires 40 hours of the week or 50 hours of the week. So I just try and remember that when I do something that I try and be present in that moment, and I do it to the best of my capability. When I train, if I work, if I socialize, you try and be present then, because it just makes it easier when you're not in that scenario, that I don't overthink it too much. By that I mean, when I'm at work, I work and I think about work. When I run, I'm running and I'm thinking about running. Because as soon as everything starts overlapping and I'm thinking about work when I'm running, and when I think about running when I'm working, then your life just becomes chaos. So I try and bring a lot of structure into my life.
Yeah, I think that's so important. You kind of mentioned it, but were you kind of working at that stage when you kind of started? Has it always been that kind of balance, or has it kind of been a learning process as you've gone along?
Definitely a big learning process. So when I started working in Cape Town, it was about 2016, 2017. I was obviously younger. I'm still young, I hope. I was about 25, 26 at the time. So for me then, like, socializing was very important, and all my friends were living in Cape Town. Now everyone's all over the world. But so like a social aspect of my life was more important at that stage than what running was potentially. I remember I trained with a friend, and some mornings he'll tell me, it's like, yo, bro, what time did you go to bed? Because I can still smell the beer. I'm sorry, I slept 3 hours. But for me, so then socializing took like a little bit more of a priority. And then as you move on in life and running becomes more important, then socializing obviously had to tie down, because you're working with that like balance on your scale. Unfortunately, with everything that you want to take on in life, you have to sacrifice something else. And unfortunately, if you want to try and work to the best of your capability and run to the best of your capability and then be a good partner and just an all-round nice human being, then certain areas are going to have to take a bit of a sacrifice, whether it's socializing or sleep or training. So I think it took me a long time to get to where I am now. There's also a period in my life where I only ran and I didn't work as well because I thought that would make me happier. In fact, it didn't. So I wanted to go back into the workplace because I felt I wanted to be part of something bigger than just something that I work on for myself. It was amazing to go back into a workplace, also understanding like workplace that supports what I do. So yeah, I definitely didn't get it right on day one. I still don't get it right every day, but I think I'm a lot better in that now than I was 5 years ago.
And what made you fall in love with trail running in the beginning?
I think it was the challenge. I've always been someone to... If someone challenged me and say it's not possible to do it, I want to prove them wrong. I'm a little bit stubborn on that front. I think, again, that introduced me to my first 100-kilometer race. People telling me it's not really possible to run 100 kilometers in the mountain, and people asking me the question like, why aren't you running comrades? Why aren't you running comrades? And there will be a time in my life when I do that. But for me, to be able to do something that other people can only dream of gives me a little bit of, I don't want to say satisfaction as in the sense of I need that, but it's more just I'm experiencing certain things in life that other people won't necessarily always experience. And those are things that makes me really happy. I run because it makes me happy. I'm not doing that for anyone else. But the fact that you can do stuff and you can strive towards stuff that other people don't want to even try and comprehend in their mind is a nice feeling. But yeah, I think like running has taken me on like so many different paths in my career. I've been in multiple countries, very fortunate to have experienced cultures due to running. And yeah, running plays a big role in my life. So I definitely want to try and keep it as big of a priority as I can keep it. And when you run, it's just you and your feet in the mountain or in the fresh air. And I think that's also what's important. Like it gives me time to process just life, because life at the moment for everyone, it's chaotic. You know, it's like racing from point A to B. It's a very fast moving, where when I'm running, it's my time and my time to just process everything that's going on in my life.
And what would you say has been your kind of proudest moment in your running career?
I know it is CCC last year when I crossed the finish line. So again, like the result was from the outside might have seemed impressive. I did have a good day, but it was more the journey to get to the finish line. It wasn't just 100 kilometers on the trail. It was about a 4-year journey behind the scenes that not everyone would have known or experienced. So for me, it was a personal project. When I saw CCC, which is part of the UTMB series, when I saw the race for the first time, I was like, that's a race I want to go do. And that's a race where I'll run 12 hours. I don't know why I had 12 hours in my head. It was just like, I think I looked at the results and I realized that gives you about a 10 to 15th position when I looked at it for the first time. And I knew like if you can do that, then that is respectable. It was the first year I tried, I didn't succeed. The second year I couldn't go because I was injured. The third year I tried and I didn't succeed. So the fourth year it was just like now everything was coming together, and eventually when I crossed that finish line, I finally ran sub 12 hours, and it was just that personal project that I've worked on for 4 or 5 years that all came together. So I think that is definitely one of my proudest moments.
Yeah, I guess everyone kind of if someone says like from the outside, as you say, like that would definitely be the highlight, you know, but it's kind of interesting to hearing it like from the inside kind of perspective. You did mention the kind of compartments that you put your life in, but how do you kind of mentally approach races, knowing that there is work, knowing you might have deadlines, things like that?
Again, that's something I actually struggle with a bit, because unfortunately you can control certain areas in your life, but you can't control, because I work with clients, and you can't control when they need stuff, as an example. So I can control as much as I possibly can and try and get my work up to a stage where I can be semi-offline for 2-3 days. And again, I'll get back to that point now, where I can be offline for 3 days, but then the day before my race, something pops up and it's needed. And then as much as I wanted to be present in the moment and prepare for the race, like it does throw a bit of a curveball. So again, it depends from situation to situation. But what I've just try to do is surround myself with a team of people, and again, environment where I work in, everyone's super supportive and happy to take on additional accountability or responsibility when I'm not around. That's what I wanted to mention now. I also realized that my contribution into my workplace is not going to make that it goes bankrupt in a day. you play a pivotal role because it's a team and you need to bring your contribution to the team, but the team should be strong enough to survive without you for a week, 2 weeks, a month. So I think that's also just something that I try and remember is like, it's okay to close your laptop for a week because there's other people that can also pick up.
You did mention that kind of first trail race, but at what stage did you was it immediately after that race you're like, okay, I want to do this properly? And were you kind of immediately competitive, or did it kind of take a while for that kind of light bulb to click?
It took a little bit of time. So that first trail race that I did, TMC, I was third, and I was very happy with the result because it was my first trail race. And again, coming from no expectation, it was a nice surprise. And I realized like, okay, this is actually something that I really enjoyed. At the time, I hated it because I had blisters everywhere. I still ran with like a Woolies pair of socks or something. I was so inexperienced. I didn't even think about putting Vaseline under my arms, like made all the mistakes. But I realized like it's something that I really enjoyed and that I was reasonably good at or had a natural talent to. So I entered Hout Bay Trail Challenge, which was the SA Champs at the time in 2019, and again raced it, got my ass kicked by, because that's the first time I raced the likes of Kane Riley and De Bang and those legends of the time, and they still are. But so I realized I'm very far behind where I should be. I think Kane beat me in that race by an hour. So I realized like there's a lot of work to do, but again, I thought there is potential. And impulsively, I went to Sri Lanka for holiday, came back, and I realized I need a goal. I need something to really scare me and excite me. And I entered UTCT 100 kilometers in 2019 in December or November. And I was like, this is going to be my goal. And I'm going to do what I have to do to get in the best shape possible on the start line. And I trained consistently for about 7 months, and the race went really well. I finished 7th, second South African, just behind Yoat. And then I realized like, okay, this was actually really enjoyable. I liked the longer distance. And at the time I had to travel a lot for work. Like my work is pretty demanding in the sense of I work for like a manufacturing company, and our factory was in Durban. I was based in Cape Town. My clients were based in Joburg. So I had to travel quite a lot. And at some point, the lack of routine became exhausting. And again, like I said, if you want to take things seriously, you need to create like a bit of a routine. So the unpredictability of jumping on a plane on a Tuesday, not knowing if I'm going to come back before Friday, it just didn't work with what I wanted to achieve outside of work. And then I realized like, okay, maybe I should just take a leap of faith. And that's when I quit my job, like early 2020. It was also COVID. It's pretty stupid thinking back now. But then I realized like, I'm going to give it a go. And again, it was amazing for a year and a half, and I had opportunities, not as many racing opportunities because unfortunately, due to COVID, there weren't many races, but it gave me time to explore. I went to the Drakensberg for the first time, like proper Drakensberg, and I had a lot of time to do other things. And then at some point I realized like, I actually missed the workplace. So that's when I led back into the workplace. But to answer your question, like, I realized from an early stage, I can be competitive. I just don't know how competitive. I think I always want to be better. Naturally, I think every runner on earth wants to be better. Like, I don't think there's someone who finishes a marathon and is like, he's happy, but 5 minutes later you think, oh shit, but I can actually go maybe a little bit faster. Only time will tell what I can achieve, but I still have very big ambitions to try and improve from where I am currently.
What were some of the kind of biggest mistakes you made in the beginning generally, and also obviously in terms of that kind of balance? And how did you kind of rectify that, and how do you kind of now like look back at races and, you know, like analyze that and work on that?
I think my biggest mistake I've made, and I think the mistake every runner makes, is you try and do too much. Like, especially when you work and you have other stuff going on, you can only do so much. And I've always tried to remember that, and it's easy to sit on the outside and judge other people by how they do stuff, but I've made all that mistakes. Like in that 2020 year when I didn't work, I ran 6,000 kilometers that year because I wasn't injured. I loved running and I just kept on running, but I was completely fatigued. I didn't race well. I didn't perform because I was just tired. So I think that's probably the biggest mistake, is learning to not let your ego get in the way. I probably run 70%, 60% of the kilometers that other people do that I compete against at the world's biggest stage, but I can't do more than what I do now. Like, then I will burn out because there's other areas in life that they don't necessarily have that I have. So your body can only handle so much stress. And again, I don't think people should compare a 40 kilometer week to an 80 kilometer week to a 120 kilometer week. I promise you a 40 kilometer week can be harder than a 120 depending on what you do. And then also some weeks life is just proper, other weeks life is chilled. So I think it's looking at your life in a running perspective holistically and not just only focusing on trying to be a better runner, because if you're continuously focusing on being a better runner, but you don't respect the other areas of life that's busy in the time, then you are digging yourself a bit of a hole. And it took me a long time to realize that.
Coming into that point, how do you kind of ensure that you have quality training, especially when, you're going through like a busy period at work or busy period with family and things like that? How do you kind of assure that all those kind of sessions are quality?
So again, I work with a very understanding coach. My coach is James Montgomery from the Run Project, and we've been working together for the last 4 odd years. And again, like any relationship, in the beginning you challenge each other a little bit, and naturally I wanted to do more. But we got to an agreement of understanding my body where there's like signs outside of running that shows when I'm fatigued and tired, and then that's when you need to be flexible and then tap off a little bit on training. So my normal structure is I try and do a workout on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then naturally longer runs on Saturdays and Sundays. But some weeks you might have travel the Thursday, which means you need to reshuffle things around, and I need to do one workout in that week and do it the Wednesday instead, which means I'm maybe a little bit fresher come Saturday or Sunday, and I can tweak my long run a little bit. So I think it just comes back to being flexible. I try and structure my travels that is normally on the same days, because I do travel to Joburg and Durban quite often. That is like a Tuesday, Wednesday. And if I need to travel 2 weeks from now, it's again a Tuesday, Wednesday. That at least there's some form of routine. And then I try and just structure my training on a 7-day work calendar. Ideally, I think when I didn't work, I trained on like a 10-day cycle, which worked really well. But I've tried with work to do long runs in the week, and it just doesn't work. So I think it's just being flexible and moving things around when you need to.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And speaking of like a long-term kind of training plan, do you kind of work on race specific, or is it kind of just general training?
So it depends from year to year. Last year I had all ambitions to run road for the first half of the year, for the first 4 or 5 months of the year. Unfortunately, I picked up some calf niggles. My body isn't as conditioned to the road right now, just because I've been running so much on the trail. So I'm trying to introduce a little bit more road throughout the week, just to give myself the ability to adapt when I need to change like running platforms, or if it's on the road or trail or treadmill. So by saying that, and getting back to your question, where the focus last year was to get fast in the beginning of the year, and unfortunately injury then lingered up a bit. So then again, need to be flexible and change. So then I decided I need to improve my climbing. Again, like last year, the biggest goal for the year was CCC, and there's 6,000 meters of elevation in 100 kilometers. So there's a lot of climbing, and obviously naturally then a lot of descending as well. So then when I couldn't run road, I was like, okay, let's be adjustable and just spend like 2 months on purely focusing on improving my climbing. Because I think the mistake that you can also make is only to judge your running ability on your results. Let's say last year, I only ran one race the entire year, basically. And if the race didn't go well, I would have been very disappointed with my year, thinking that the year has gone to waste without any solid results. Although I roughly improved my climbing ability by 20 to 30%, like in terms of time. So it's like, even if the race didn't go well, I think there's still other areas in your running that you can judge about if you're becoming a better runner or not. So I try and use time when I don't focus on races to improve areas of my running where I feel there's a little bit of room for improvement.
Coming to kind of like a micro level, how do you manage sort of the day-to-day in terms of the training, and obviously you can try and put in compartments, but sometimes work runs late, or you have to be in the office early. So is it again remaining flexible, or is there kind of a best time for you to run?
So I normally try and train in the mornings, just because it gets me out of bed. I do enjoy starting my day with a run. Even if it's most rest days, I'll still wake up and think, I'm going to go run. I'm feeling fine. I'm not too tired, and I'll do a 5 kilometer, 7 kilometer jog. But I definitely 80% of the time, 90% of the time, I train in the morning, just because that's the one area that I can control. Normally, my workday don't really start before 9 in terms of meetings. I always try and be in the office like 8:30, just to catch up on emails and do almost like structure my day. But the day basically starts at 9. So I know I've got about 4 hours basically. If you wake up at 5 till 9, there's enough time to train in that time period. And then I've got a full day of work. And then some days I have second sessions in the day. But also I realize that second session, if it's a half an hour jog or half an hour on the cross trainer, that's not going to make or break your running ability. Or when I get to the start line, I'm not going to be fitter by doing a half an hour jog on a Tuesday. Like, again, it's if the day becomes too intense and I feel too tired, then I rest, then I'd skip it. Again, then I'd rather go the Wednesday if my day wasn't as exhausting. So I try and do it in the mornings, get it out the way, then I can focus on work for the entire day instead of in the back of my mind thinking about my heel repeats that I need to do the afternoon.
Yeah. What kind of sacrifices have you had to make to have this kind of lifestyle, and how do you kind of judge what those sacrifices are, or which things get sacrificed?
Yeah. There's times when I like take my personal time and prioritize it over anything else. Like December, it was like a long time since me and my wife had a nice holiday, like it's just purely a relaxing holiday outside of running. So we went to Bali for 2.5 weeks. I didn't even take my running shoes. So then I prioritize chill time. So then that's the priority. I'm here to chill, drink as many beers as I can, have a good time, enjoy Bali, and then come back and then focus again. So I think outside of running, there's certain areas in my life where I'm not always willing to compromise. Like for me, my wife is super understanding, and I mean any trail runners, she's basically any runners or any athlete's dream, because she's got her own life outside of running. She loves the fact that I run. She supports me, but she's got no interest in what's the latest trends on the trail calendar or what's the newest shoes on the market. Like for her, it's refreshing spending time with people, and especially if it's your partner, because it takes away the whole running aspect. But then when I want to spend time with her, I then obviously deprioritize training. So again, it just comes down to where am I in the year? Because in the middle of June, when I'm doing big training, then she has the understanding of, okay, we can't go away every weekend, or we can't go chill with friends all the time because I need to train. Where in January, February, now I'm very flexible. So now I can say, okay, cool. Like Saturday, I'll do my Saturday run on Friday. Let's go do something fun Saturday with friends. So it just, again, comes back to where in the year I am, what my schedule looks like, and then moving things around within the time that I have.
Yeah, I think it's so important to kind of look at it kind of on like a macro level rather than, like day by day. So like almost as you say, like take the year, you've got a full year. So kind of break that up rather than, like every day you need to fit in each of those kind of blocks.
Yeah, and it's also, I guess it's really hard to be fit for 12 months of the year. I don't think it's a good thing to be fit for 12 months of the year. So it's almost like this is when my key races are. I need about 8 to 10 weeks ideally before that key race to really dial in, build up solid training, get to a very big base, and then taper down before my race. And naturally, if you race longer races, you're maybe going to race 2 or 3 races in the year. So maximum that calculates to 30 weeks odd of very structured training. The year is 52 weeks. So then there's like 22 weeks that I can be a little bit more flexible. But when I'm in that 30-week time period, then I'm a little bit more selfish with running, family, and work. And then there's not a lot of time for other things outside of that.
Yeah. And do you like to kind of like block it? So it's almost like, run a race, a few weeks recovery, run a race, and have it in one kind of few months? Or do you kind of spread it out throughout the year? Or is it very dependent on what you feel like running that year?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what I want to run in the year. I've realized that, and I think again, it comes back to the fact that I've got a lot of stuff going on outside of running, and that my work is pretty demanding. So I can only race 2-3 times. And also when I race, I tend to get quite a lot out of myself. I don't think I've ever finished a race thinking like, okay, I could have ran another kilometer. It's normally I'm absolutely depleted and absolutely broken. And unfortunately, that if you go that deep, then it takes a while to recover. So I've actually had some of my worst races when I was the fittest, but I've raced a lot in the year. So it's sometimes a tough pill to swallow because I love racing and I want to race more. But naturally, if you get yourself in that deep hole, you can only go there a certain amount of times in your lifespan. So I can either do it 10 times in 1 year, or I can try and stretch that 10 times out of 3 years. And I think for me, that's a more sensible route to follow. So ideally, I want to race more recover shorter and train harder, but naturally that just doesn't work with my body.
And if someone's, working full time but wants to kind of get into running, what are the kind of key areas to prioritize that will kind of set you up for, to have this kind of lifestyle?
I think what I've also realized is, and take it from someone who's made plenty of training mistakes, but I've realized that not a single week or even a single month in your running lifespan is going to necessarily make or break you as an athlete. Like for me, if I train like consistently for 2 weeks, of course I'm going to be fitter, but 9 months down the line, that 2 weeks wouldn't have made a difference in your 9-month time period. And again, I think for everyone that works, it's sometimes there's certain areas that it's year end, or it's business planning time, or it is just we've got a big conference as an example. So you know when things are going to be rough at work. And I think that is almost a time where you don't need to try and wake up at 3 a.m. to run. Take that 2 weeks as a recovery period, refresh a little bit, feel good again, and then after that, you take a week to get back into it, and then you can train again. So again, it just comes back to like looking at life holistically and not just in certain smaller aspects of only running or only working. That would be something that I've tried to do in my life.
Yeah. I think I definitely make that mistake of not looking at, and then you get to the moment and you're like, I should have planned this better. And you mentioned you obviously travel for work. How do you fit in? Is it a case of you get your training sessions done and then you travel, or do you kind of fit them in, especially when you're going to like Joburg where there's no mountains? Yeah. How do you kind of fit work around that?
So again, normally we've got a travel program that don't really allow, it allows you, but you get called out. You have to book 2 weeks in advance. So normally I know my travel like 2 weeks in advance. So then I can train around it, because ideally I've got so much respect for Oaks and Joburg or Pretoria. I've been there a couple of times, and it's harsh running there. It's really tough conditions. It makes you tough as nails, I think. So ideally, I normally use those time periods as rather recovery or just easy running, instead of trying to force a hill repeat session or field session when I'm there. So it is like you've mentioned, I try and train prior to going and then train after returning, instead of just focusing on I'm going to train through this 2 week period.
Going back to the training, you obviously don't have hours to kind of spend training. How do you guarantee your sessions are kind of quality? Especially maybe like you cut out the rest time or things like that. What are the kind of tricks that you kind of use?
Yeah, so again, you called it out there. So if I realize I only have an hour, but my quality session of the hour is 40 minutes, then I'll just do a shorter warm up and use the beginning part of the workout. I still was like easing into it, and then a shorter cool down. It's not ideal, because obviously you want to be proper warm and cool down nicely afterwards, but that is obviously when you are under time pressure. Try and then also sometimes just be strategic with sleep. Like some days I'll try and sleep a bit longer, and some days I'll be okay with 5-6 hours to 5 hours odd to wake up earlier to go and train if I've got a key session that I want to do or think I need to do at the time. And then also, again, I just try and train my sessions on the same days, like I said, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I can restructure my work a little bit around it as well. It's like days when I know. So again, me and my coach, we will work around it and say like, okay, this is a really key 2 week period. Like, how can we structure training and then maybe not deprioritize work, but just put work a little bit to the side just for these 2 days as an example. So then those days I'll make my meetings a little bit late in the morning, or I'll start a bit later. I think it's just, again, like planning a little bit in advance. You don't have the luxury of, let's say you plan a session for the Tuesday and it's raining or it's howling with wind, then I don't have the flexibility to move it to Wednesday. I have to do it the Tuesday or the Thursday. So it's sticking to your plan, and it makes you just like think a little bit in advance as well.
Planning. And how do you kind of manage burnout, preventing it, and obviously once, it kind of hits to go recover from it and picking up the signs of it as well?
Yes. Again, a very tough one, because when you're in that moment, you think you're just like slightly fatigued, or you think that it's just a bad day of training. But I've actually experienced it last year around April. Just over that UTD period, I was just going through a lot at work. I moved into a different position, still had to keep tabs of the old job, new team, a lot going on, a lot of additional new stress. And I could see it come through in my training. And then also when I lined up at UTD, I raced a kilometer and I was like, I've got absolutely nothing. Like I actually want to walk this climb, and that never really happens to me. So that's in those moments when you realize like, okay, I am actually tired and I have to take a step back and maybe like reprioritize my training just for a short period of time. For 2 weeks, instead of doing 3 workouts a week, I do 1 workout a week, just to make sure you give your body that necessary time to recover. I do have like certain, let's say, workouts that I can reference back to always. I've done like multiple different workouts around Table Mountain. So I know if I do this hill, it should take me 9 minutes and 36 seconds as an example. And then when I do it a week and I'm like 10 and a half minutes, I'm like, okay, this is maybe a bad day. But if I do it again and it's again like 10 and a half minutes, then I realize like, okay, something is wrong. I'm tired. I need to rest. And that's when you need to be self-disciplined by saying, I'm not unfit, because you know you're fit. There's a fine line between being unfit and thinking you like, or not admitting you're tired. So that's where you just have to be mature and decide like, okay, oh, look at your training. I have trained well. I just need to take a bit of a breather and recover. So those are small little tricks that I've learned.
Actually, that's actually a great one with the measuring how long it would take you to do something. And when it comes to recovery with such limited time, and obviously recovery is so important, I guess, how do you manage that? But also, how do you prevent it from, like, you saying, okay, like, I don't really need this much recovery when you actually do?
So, yeah, recovery is something that I think for me is the biggest challenge, because there's enough time for me in the week to train well and to work well and to do what I want to do. But the recovery aspect is the one thing that I can't always control, because it's, again, I go straight to work. Normally sometimes I'll skip breakfast because there's no time. I can't just go take an afternoon nap. So again, that comes back to like weekends. I try and do stuff that I want to do, spend time with my wife, but then also just take 2 hours, lay on the couch, take a nap, and just try and refresh for that week again. So I can't control that too much. One thing that I have tried to be better with is just nutrition, because that obviously plays a big role. In the past, I didn't really focus on it too much. But again, I've learned, and I'm hoping that I don't want to offend anyone by saying I'm starting to get older. I'm only 32 now. Yeah, 32. So still very young, but I'm not 25 anymore. Like, I need a bit more sleep. I need to eat better. Like, I can't just eat what I want anymore. So it's just being more focused on those things that you can control.
And if you had to give, one piece of advice or one thing that like a beginner could do to make this whole process easier or make the balance easier, what would that be?
Sure. I think it depends so much from person to person, but my biggest advice for anyone is that try and find consistency, because not 1 month of good training is going to make you a better runner. Yes, you can maybe temporarily get a good result if you train really hard for 3 months in like an unsustainable way. But 6 months down the line, you're going to have burnout, or you're going to be tired, or you're going to be injured, because naturally your body can only handle so much stress. So if you're in a really stressful work environment, I wouldn't say to try and measure mileage or measure weekly mileage and try and get your Strava lines to align and all those things. It's almost just taking a step back and trying to look at things from like you would look at the stock exchange. It's like there should be a gradual, constant climbing line. You don't want these spikes, because naturally, like, it just allows too much time, too much risk. There's too much risk involved when you try and have short-term gains. So I would say try and be consistent as much as you can, and then also, like, make time for the things that you enjoy. If you have a workout but you don't feel you can handle a workout, just run, just jog that day, and find different ways to try and get fit if the work schedule doesn't allow it at a given time.
Yeah, always move. In terms of post-workout or post-running, meals, as you mentioned, the nutrition, do you have like a kind of favorite thing that's quick and easy that you kind of just go to?
So I always have boiled eggs in the fridge. So for me, that's just the easy, good, quick high protein type of thing to consume after a run. And again, I'm on a new nutrition strategy journey here that I've only started this year. So I'm figuring it out as I go. But naturally, for me, if I go, most mornings I go straight from running straight to work. So I can't go make up a massive breakfast, but I'll normally try and, like, my go-to is like a avo and egg toasty. It's quick to eat, it's got good nutritional value, and it's just like food straight in the system and I can get going. And then lunchtime I always like try and prioritize like a healthier meal, although I'm a big fan of sandwiches. Like, I would be happy to eat sandwiches for the rest of my life. So it's now just, let's try and make like a healthier sandwich instead of just making a toasted ham and cheese.
We talked a little bit about that CCC result. What was that experience like, I guess, in context of the 4 years, but also, I suppose there's so many layers to it, you know, in context of being a South African, context of top 20, you know, what was that whole experience like?
I think anyone who's seen a photo or watched a video of UTMB will realize like it is so out of this world. Like, I haven't been to the Olympics as a supporter or anything like that, so I can't compare it to that scene. But what I can say is that it is absolutely nuts. That place is insane. You don't, it's 100 kilometers, but you'll never run for more than, I almost want to say 100 meters without people cheering and supporting. There's people everywhere on the route. So I literally, like, when I think about it, you get like goosebumps. And a lot of times when I think about crossing the finish line, I would feel emotional, literally, because it's such a, like I said now, it was such a journey to get there. And it's so different to what I sometimes experience as an African. Don't get me wrong, what we have here is amazing. It is world class. But I think the big differentiating factor is the amount of people that's in Europe on the like trail route while people are racing. So many support out there. And then also, I think that the key thing is that it's probably every South African's dream to go and experience Chamonix during Mont Blanc week. It is absolutely nuts. But it makes people so invested, and that's quite special to see, because if you're an American, there's 1,000 Americans running. So it's not like the American country is like backing you, or same for France or same for Italy. But for South African to go there and know there's a whole country back home that's like following along and supporting, because there's only a hand selected few of you, it really is special and you feel honored. It almost feels like you're representing your community at a world stage. So that is so special, and to have like a good result and a personal journey all come together on that day is I can't really comprehend it into words. It's one of those lifelong memories.
And are you kind of still, you know, prior to this, are you kind of still an underdog and unknown in, you know, and obviously here, you know, but are you still unknown in that UTMB environment?
I think so, because I was ranked, I think about 75th, 76th, somewhere around there. And naturally, because it's such a competitive race, there's about, honestly speaking, maybe, okay, hand select a few that can win the race. But there's at least 40 guys that can be in the top 10, like, no doubt. And there's probably at least 20 guys that think they can stand on the podium. So the race starts off very fast and very competitive. So the guy who's ranked number 80th, no one knows about him or cares about him, unless he's one of those runners like, I mean, Vincent Blanchard, the guy won last year, and I can't remember his name.
The shoe guy. Yeah, it's Vincent. Yeah,
Vincent. But his
surname's not.
No, that's the other guy. Anyway, but people knew him. I've never heard about him, but the people in the French community knew he's a rock star. So a guy like that, even though he was ranked 50th, he'll be someone to look out for. But for me, who's coming from South Africa, like, you're very under the radar. So there's no media attention. There's no stress involved. It's literally you rock up, you do your own thing, and you race as hard as you can. Yeah.
And now, post that?
I still think if I go to UTMB, like, it will be the same. It's not, again, unfortunately, you need that like one breakout race. And again, that's not, for me, it all depends. Like, I want to race every race as hard as I possibly can. But if I won the race, or if I finished 5th or 20th in the way I raced CCC, I would have been equally happy. I don't think winning would have made me happier. So if you really want to stand out on the international scene, you need to go and win a race somewhere, in one of the big races. Because nowadays there's so many competitive races, so you can't just go to a race and finish top 3 and think sponsors are going to run to you with checks and those sort of things. It's not how it works. Like, you really need to be the best of the best of the best, and consistently the best, to be in the limelight at those sort of events.
And what does it mean to come like first South African in a race like that?
It means a lot, but again, if someone else had a better day than me on the day and I ran my same time, like I would have been equally happy. It was so special, like running with Tony for such a long period of the race, and we exchanged some words, and there were times when I was man down, there was times that she was man down, but that familiar faces on the trail is a lot. And if I luckily felt really good towards the end, and I managed to make a little gap on her. Not that we were racing, because I mean, like, we're completely different categories and everything. But if she finished 10 minutes ahead of me or 40 minutes ahead of me, as an example, I'm just putting it as a reference, but I would have been equally happy because I finished that race knowing that it was like a personal journey and like the best that I can possibly do on the day.
What is the experience like competing, internationally versus South Africa?
It's very different. And I think the key thing is in South Africa, the people. So for me, racing at home is amazing because you go around every corner. There's someone that you walk into the aid station, someone calls you on your name, they give you water, they speak your language. Like, to try and communicate with a Frenchman after 60 kilometers into a race is really hard because they don't speak English. So it's like, if you want salt or salted potatoes, you can't explain to them. So just the fact to be here where people understand you, your community's here, your friends are here, it's your friends outside of running is all of a sudden here. So I think that's what makes like racing at home really special. And all the events in South Africa, especially what Stu has done with UTCT, what the guys are doing at MUT, they're building amazing races that people from all over the world are coming to experience. So I think for us to race here, you are an advantage. If we have an advantage, because our trails are very, very different to the European trails. So naturally, we can be a bit better on local soil. But yeah, it's very different. I think locally it brings that a little bit more personality to the event, where internationally it's naturally like a little bit more competitive and, in my opinion, more challenging just because it's more unknown.
And what lessons have you learned from racing internationally that you've kind of applied to your running?
I think that the one thing I've learned is that I almost want to say like not all mountains are made equally, because you can try and prepare for anything in Europe. And again, I don't want to sound like we don't have everything in Cape Town, because we honestly do. I can go to Montreal and I can climb 1,500 meters, no problem. But climbing 1,500 meters in Montreal and climbing 1,500 meters in Europe is very, very, very different. I don't know why, but it's very different. Like, okay, obviously it's the altitude, it's the terrain, it's the steepness. Our trails are more technical, so it's naturally a bit slower. Like there, it's smoother, so it's faster, so you're going harder. It's more like on a consistent pace, so your heart rate is higher. So it's all those things that play a role. But yeah, all mountains are different.
Is the goal for you to compete in Europe?
In a perfect world, yes. Like I would love to race there all the time, but not unfortunately, like I've got ambitions that I want to achieve in my work career as well. Mm-hmm. And my work is flexible enough for me to go to other countries. I can go work pretty much anywhere in the world. However, my wife is a psychologist, and for her work is here. And like, I don't think I'll ever be happy in another country. I absolutely love South Africa. I love being here. I love the people. I love our culture. Like, everything about this country is amazing. But it does make racing in Europe more challenging, just because I can't go there for long periods of time. Again, if both of us were in a flexible work environment, then I could go for 3 months, 4 months and go live there, train there, race there. But my work scenario and her work scenario doesn't allow us to be away from home for too long. So it just means that naturally I can only maybe race twice a year. It's also like traveling is exhausting. This is a horrible thing to say because it's a big privilege to travel. To fly every 2 months or 3 months is not going to really be the most sustainable way of trying to race in Europe. Yeah. So I think I'll still stick to my 1 or 2 races a year internationally, maybe one. And then, I mean, luckily we have such amazing races in South Africa as well. So it's not like I have to travel to find the trail race. We have got beautiful trail races, and it's becoming more and more and more competitive every year. So we have that year as well.
How long does it take you to kind of prepare for an international race? You know, how far out do you have to go there?
So I think, again, in a perfect world, I mean, the guys who go train in Chamonix for UTMB, they go 2 months before. I did 3 weeks last year and it worked really well. So I would think, given my living situation, I would say like 4 weeks will probably be ideal, because then you can go and you can do 2 really big weeks of training and then taper down. Where last year I only had the opportunity to do like 8 days, 9 days of really big training. A couple of days extra would have been nice, but again, I think naturally my routine would be go there 3 weeks before, acclimatize. Again, also depends on the altitude, like how high you go. If it's a flat race, no altitude involved, then you can go a week before probably. But most of these European races is in big mountains, and you do climb to around 3,000 meters, 2.5 to 3,000 meters. So it is high to adjust.
I mean, obviously UTMB is UTMB, but going forward, is that obviously now like a consideration to kind of look at the things that don't require kind of over preparation,
Yes, it would be. Like 2 years ago, I did a race on the islands called La Palma as part of the Canary Islands. The race is called Transfer Kenya. Absolutely amazing experience. And then I only went a week before, and the race went extremely well. So it is definitely the smarter thing to pick races that don't require as much acclimatization. But naturally, the race that appeals to me is the races that is in bigger mountains. So then I do need to go a bit earlier. But there's plenty of races that I want to do still that's on my bucket list that's not in high altitude. So then it's simple. Then you can actually make it a week and a half trip out and back without like really preparing on that side.
When you're starting out running, everything's hard and it's difficult and it's quite easy to get disheartened. What is the one thing you would say to beginners, kind of just to not give up and not get intimidated by that kind of beginning phase?
Yeah, I think it's also to continuously have like a sense of humor about it, because people think it's easy for me to run uphill. I promise you it's not. Like the fitter you get, the faster you try and do it. It's equally hard for both of us. If you take 40 minutes up latte clip or 20 minutes up latte clip, like both in terms of your effort, you're working equally hard, even though the one is faster than the other. But I would just say like find fun ways to incorporate like fun into your training. If you really hate uphill, like try and make it fun. Like, I don't know, go 100 meters up, 20 meters down, 100 meters up, 20 meters down, and it will become easier. I think it's just looking at things in different ways, and it's definitely a bit of a mind shift as well. So in the beginning, I hated uphill. Now I'm at the point where I actually love uphill and hate downhill, because you just continuously try and change your perspective of, when I get to a hill, not to have intimidated thoughts, but think, oh, this is actually an opportunity for me to hike instead of run. Like think about it in different ways instead of like, oh, it's another hill, I'm tired, I don't want to go up here. So that's what I've tried to, and that's maybe something worth to consider.
And if you could race anywhere or any race in the world, what would that be? What's the golden one?
There's a few, but I think the one, if you give me the option to go and race any race tomorrow, I would say Western States. It's a race that always appealed to me. It's hot, it's fast, the conditions is brutal. I naturally tend to run better in warmer conditions, or my body, I think, handles heat a bit better than the average person potentially. So the hotter for me, normally the better. And the race has a lot of history. It's one of the most well-known 100-milers. Unfortunately, it's near impossible to get in, so that's challenging. So yeah, hoping I get the opportunity one day to go and race there.
Talking about balancing work and running, how important is that relationship with your employer?
So yeah, I currently work at Red Bull, which is obviously a product part of the studio here. And the values of what I try and achieve in my sporting career and the values of the company is very aligned. So that helps. I think if you work in a different company that don't really associate to activity, then I think it's a bit different. But in our team of 9 people, I think every single one of them run. The one year I was the only one in the team who didn't run something at Two Oceans, and I got tuned for months, and I got everyone's race number after the race stuck on my desk, because the company itself is very active. So I think that helps, because there's an understanding of what you do in your personal life, and that allows me to also like strive towards my goals, and Red Bull has respect for that. So I think that helps, that I'm in a slightly more flexible environment.
And when you kind of started, was that the kind of goal to look for a company that has that kind of environment, or did you just kind of get lucky that?
I think I was lucky. Like I said, when I didn't work and I went back into the workspace, I said when I go back into the workspace, it needs to be a brand that I really resonates with. So I was looking actually at funny enough, and I'm not saying it because the product is here, but I was looking at the Jack Black job ad, and then I was like, oh, this is too much travel involved for this job. And the next job on LinkedIn was Red Bull. And I was like, okay, this is a sign. And I just thought that it's obviously a cool company, very involved with the sport that I love. So yeah, it was an easy decision to make that career shift. Again, like from the outside, I didn't know what it was going to be on the inside, but it's a brand that I've heard good things about from the work environment. So yeah, I think I don't regret my decision. And again, it's easy to work for a company where you have like a mutual way of thinking about life.
And talking about the kind of professionalism of running, is the goal, you did say you kind of missed that could have been COVID related as well, but is the goal to be a professional full-time runner?
That's something I probably think about weekly. I don't have a lot of things that I continuously think about, but that is a continuous thought because, and I have my answer and I have my conclusion, which I'll get to. I'm just going to give you a bit of a build up, but I think that I want to be the best possible runner that I can be, but I also want to be the best possible employee that I can be, and I will be the best possible husband one day. I am a husband, but the best possible father one day, the best possible husband, the best possible friend. So then I'm like, if that is my ambition long term, that it's fine to make temporary decisions where for a couple of years I'm only going to focus on running, and I'm going to maybe put the employment side to the side a little bit, just for now as an example. But I think about it. Well, the way I think about it is that if I sit on a couch at the age of 60 and I was 20th at CCC, or if I was 5th at CCC, because naturally I'm not going to go win that race. I know I'm not. If I want to win that race, I need to move to France, stay there for 2 years and try again. Then maybe you'll be on the podium. But I don't know if being 5th is going to make me happier than being 20th. Because now where I've finished, I still know that I had all these things in my life that some people might know about, some people might not. There's a lot of people that I work with in the sense of suppliers, like they don't have a clue that I'm a runner. For them, I'm their representative from Red Bull as an example, and I need to deliver on that front. So the ambition will be there to be the best possible runner that I can be, but I don't think it will take away any of the other things that I also want to achieve in my life.
And how big a consideration is the kind of, I guess, the financial, the sponsorship kind of side of it? Yeah.
Look, the sport is becoming more and more professional. That means two things. One being there's more brands involved and more brands who is investing in the sport, but also the more exposure they want from the sport. And then as things become more professional, naturally it attracts more professional athletes as an example. So the whole floor is just like being lifted year on year on year. And if I run the same time next year in any race as what I ran last year, you would naturally be 5 to 10 positions lower, just because there's so many new people coming into the sport and the sport is developing and growing at an extremely rapid rate. So yeah, I think like I would always want to try and be as good as I can be. And if I do find the right partners that supports you on that front, then it's great. But in my situation, I work full time to earn a salary, so I don't have to rely on income from running. Like at the moment, I'm making a loss while running, but it's fine because obviously I love it and enjoy it. It's not like I'm making any money from running. I can probably structure things differently and work with more brands and be involved with more brands to turn that around and make a little bit of money from running. But everything comes at a cost. So now I've got a lot of flexibility. There's no races on the calendar that I must do. There's no media shoots that I have to do, etc. Where if you do partner with brands where that's an expectation, or I need to attend a team camp and I can't due to a work schedule, then it will add more stress in my life. So from where I'm now, I think I'm happy and content with where I am. But yeah, I think naturally over years to come, we're going to just see more and more brands investing bigger contracts into athletes.
And how do you feel about that, like the future of the sport and the future of where you're going?
So I think I entered the trail running scene a little bit after the classic stage of it was hippies running in the mountains without shoes on. Like when I entered in 2018, basically 2019, the sport was becoming more professional. So that's how I know trail running. I know people refer back to 10 years ago, trail running isn't what it used to be. That sort of comment you'll hear a lot. For me, it's always been the same, and I can just see it become more and more professional. So I think it's great. It allows for more opportunities. It allows for more people to make a career from it. If it's running or even in the event space, there's more people making money by creating events and FKTs, and it builds a society. It gives people jobs, especially in South Africa. I mean, every race that we do, there's people that earns income from it that wouldn't have earned the income if it wasn't for racing. So the fact that trail running becomes more professional, I think is a very positive thing.
Yeah. How do you kind of feel being like, I guess, one of the top runners in South Africa, from the inside? Obviously from the outside, we're like, okay, cool, these are kind of the guys that are the top runners in South Africa, and obviously you're one of them. How does that kind of feel? Do you feel it? And guess, how did it change after CCC?
First of all, yeah, thank you. I try not to think about it on that front, because for me, and this is my honest opinion, is like, for me, running has come naturally because I've been running my entire life. So I understand from the outside it might look like running a 40 kilometer on the trail fast or running a 100 kilometer fast is impressive. And yes, don't get me wrong, it is like I do work hard for that. So it's not like it just comes naturally. But when I look at a runner who's never ran and he's finishing his first 100 mile or 100K, like, I literally cry in every last finisher video that I see. Like that video of the guy who finished UTCT like 10 minutes or 20 minutes before cutoff, and his family's there, and like that guy is sitting in the office on Monday. Like, no one at work's think about him as an athlete, but he just finished 100 mile, and that's hell of impressive. So I think those guys are the guys that inspire me a lot as well. So I try not to think about myself as this runner that people should respect. I think every runner that finished 100 miler, 100K, 10 kilometers even, it deserves respect, because everyone is on their own journey of like working hard to achieve their personal goal. So I think that's the first comment that I want to make. And then there's obviously a select group of people that tend to perform on a higher level than some others. And I've heard, or I know my name is getting associated with that group of individuals. And it's nice to be acknowledged, but it's not why I run. Like, I don't need the outside validation of, you are a good runner, here's a kudo on Strava as an example, because I run, it comes from like an internal desire to run and to be outdoors, not necessarily to impress people. But I do appreciate all the support and the effort that people put into your journey as well.
And if you could go back to yourself when you started running or started trail running, what would you say to yourself?
Sure. Like when I started, I had no idea where trail running would take me. I'm not saying that I'm like on this pedestal somewhere now and I've made it in running. Not at all. I'm very, very far from where I want to be. But if I can go back, and just give myself a little bit of advice back in the day, it would be to try and use running to explore more and do more, and also give back more. I got to a stage now where I was like, I've been receiving so much from the sport for the last 4 or 5 years, or let's say 3 years, since I've let's say had a couple bigger results, and I haven't really given much back to give people the opportunities that I've had. Of course, you interact with people and you support people and you give advice to people where you can. But there's honestly no reason why I should be one of the better trail runners in South Africa. If you look at a pure athletic ability from the guys who come through the ranks in marathons and to oceans and comrades and those sort of events, if those guys who's running 5.5 hour comrades races, if they decide to run trail, we'll all get smoked. And again, with the sport becoming more professional, it might give those guys the opportunity to come and run trail as well. So I think if I can go back, I would try and set up my environment to bring more people into the sport that deserves the same opportunities that I received when I entered the sport.
Sure, I love that. And what is the most rewarding thing for you about balancing, both worlds?
I think it's when you get to the end of the week, normally on a Sunday when I've done my weekly training, I've trained in the morning on Sundays, and me and my wife spend way too much time at the Ranyuzig market. It's like when you walk to the bar, the guy just brings what you order every single week. But sitting there 12 o'clock on a Sunday, knowing that I worked hard, I trained hard, and I can drink an ice cold Jack Black CPA, then I know it's like a proud moment knowing that I did what I had to do this week.
At the beginning, I asked about the socks. What would you have on the back of your socks? Have you remembered it?
Yes, I would say flippin' fast.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Awesome. Thanks for the time. I really enjoyed it, and I hope there's someone that take a little bit of learnings from this conversation.
Amazing. Thank you.
Shot.